Well, welcome to the Snyder Cut of the Campus Comics Cast, which is actually better known as episode number 102. This is Scott Reed, and I am joined this evening by
Mike Atchison
and Shaad Schubert.
And in case you are listening for the first time, this is the official podcast of Muddy Monster Comics and Collectibles. You can find Muddy Monster at 1422 Walnut Street in Murfreesboro, Illinois. The store hours are Tuesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And, of course, you can also call Mike No at the shop at 618-457-6011. And, of course, search for the Muddy Monsters comics page on Facebook. Just one more reminder, on July 24th, we mentioned this for the first time last episode, but we're going to have the first Muddy Monster Minicon. And that event is up and created on Facebook. So if you are interested in attending the Muddy Monster Minicon, then be sure and follow that page, the event page, so you can get all the details. Jason Font, who is the Red Ranger from Time Force, is going to be a special guest at the show. And there's going to be about 7 or 8 other vendors set up. So there's going to be lots of stuff to choose from. So be sure and put that on your calendar. So tonight, what we're going to talk about are our thoughts on the Falcon and Winter Soldier series on Disney. Then we're going to dive into the Snyder Cut of Justice League from HBO Max. And then we're going to wrap up things by covering the second volume of Immortal Hulk, which is issues 6 to 10. So before we get going on Falcon and Winter Soldier, anybody got anything they want to say?
I want to apologize in advance for a squeaky chair.
Oh. Well, I haven't heard it yet, so
I just was muted. So to our vast audience,
yes,
I'll try to avoid moving around too much.
Okay. All right, so Falcon and Winter Soldier. Basically, this series starts. We're basically 6 months post Endgame. Mm-hmm. So basically, the blip has occurred. Half the population has returned. And needless to say that the world is kind of reeling from that reintroduction of so many people all at once. They really kind of kick things off by giving us basically action sequences for both Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? 2 separate ones. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Winter Soldier sequence is actually kind of a flashback sequence, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So they definitely are setting this up as kind of like the buddy cop movie. Buddy cop action movie is kind of what we're seeing here. So I don't know. You guys want to give your initial thoughts on the series?
Go ahead, Shaad.
Okay. So I liked the feel of it immediately. A lot of action jumping right into the show. And I think we probably all knew that it wasn't going to keep up that way all through all 6 episodes, but there were definitely some really cool, very cinematic Marvel movie points to the show, starting from the opening sequence with Falcon going through the helicopter and saving the guy and explosions and all kinds of cool stuff. But we do see a lot of an emotional build on these 2 characters that we haven't really got to see. They've been kind of co-stars to Captain America through a few movies now. So getting to really get to know, I think Sam, more than even Bucky, we got to see a lot more of and really get to understand what drives him and his family, and seeing that side of it was really cool.
Yeah, I agree with some of your points there, Shaad, that it was nice to see these characters highlighted, which I think was the idea with Marvel Studios, was to, take these characters that are, I don't want to call them second tier, but they haven't had their own movies.
Yeah.
And really give us, and you're right, they really did front load the special effects in the first couple episodes. Maybe the first episode, I don't remember if it was just that, but they did a good job of setting the hook for the action fan.
Yeah.
It was the type of show that I was looking forward to. I think we got that good contrast from going from WandaVision, which its quirkiness and its thematic twists and turns, to your straightforward buddy cop, action show. It probably could have been either shorter or longer. I think the 6 episodes was.
Make up your mind.
It is like they could have not went down a couple of paths and maybe stayed at 4, but they went down enough paths with plot points and plots and storylines and stuff that I think I ended up thinking, man, I wish we would have had a couple more episodes. So I think it could have been 8, but that's just it's nitpicking, and overall they had great chemistry. There's just enough real world context that makes it fairly interesting and contemporary. And they're really, I have a hard time. I really struggle to find any. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I can't avoid having that influence on me because we're kind of late in the game reviewing this show. But there's enough. It's contemporary enough that I can probably nitpick a few other things. But for right now, I want to say this was a really good show, and I never realized just how much Wyatt Russell looks like his dad.
Oh,
and
yes.
I want to know. I want to ask Kurt, did you name him after Wyatt Earp, which he played in Tombstone, my favorite movie? So,
well, speaking of Wyatt Russell, he did absolutely have the worst introduction of a character in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
I don't know how they could have looked at that scene and not think that he just looks wrong in that mask in that first sequence.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe they intended that though, because it was awkward. I'm like, man, this guy doesn't look like Captain America at all.
Yeah, you saw like all the memes of like the guy from Up and just with the scrunched up face, and it was, and I'm so glad that like he didn't maintain that look, because he had the mask on other times and it didn't look anything like that. It was like they either changed it after the first episode, or something. But it was really, really bad, that first scene. So. They did do some dramatically different backstories for a couple of the characters, John Walker in particular, which is fine. I mean, obviously, we don't want to have the exact same story from the comics, because then there's no surprises. You got to give them a little bit of a mix up, at least, change up some things. And the same way with Flag Smasher. I mean, Flag Smasher was even gender swapped, for this series. So, and that actress, Erin Kellyman, I mean, now she was outstanding as Carly.
Yeah,
sure was.
She was probably to me, actually the highlight of this series.
She was really good. I kept going, she looked so familiar, and she was in the Solo, the Star Wars movie, and I was like, okay, that's where I've seen her from before.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but
okay.
Yeah, I thought she was very convincing in her role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very empathetic character that really just seemed like she had the right idea, but just the wrong direction.
That's about half of I think that where they could have added at least half of an episode is give us a little bit more reason why the Flag Smashers were doing what they were doing. It seemed almost like we were missing something, because they put so much emphasis on, was it her mom or maybe her mentor, the woman that was sick?
Mm-hmm.
They put a lot of emphasis on that being her motivation and what really pushed her to do what she's doing, but you really didn't know more than that. And just saying, it was because of the blip. Sorry, what's that?
Well, yeah, you did. You had more than that, because the whole point of the issue was with the blip. Countries were desperate for people to come to their country so that they could provide all the services and fill all the jobs.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, hey, we've got empty houses. Come take a home. All right. Then the blip occurs. All those people come back. They go back to their house. Somebody else is living in it. Now, those people who had gone into all these countries that had been welcomed now are like, okay, we don't need you anymore, so leave. So you have all these little immigrant camps that are set up, and she and her mother are part of one of those immigrant camps, and she's fighting for, justice for all of these people who have been mistreated as a result of everybody coming back from the blip.
Okay, you need to be the editor of the show. So
exactly.
You can explain that to people that are a little bit more casual observers. No, you're right. I knew in general terms that's what it was about, but I feel like that was a storyline we could have benefited from if they spent a little bit more time talking or even showing some examples of that. Again, it's minor complaints. I'm saying where they could have capitalized a little bit more.
Yeah, you have to be really paying attention to understand it when you go to these places with the Flag Smasher emblem and just people kind of sitting around in this courtyard, that those are actually not just some house, or it's not where people are going just because they want to be there. It's where people have been forced to go.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading the synopsis and I saw, that Flag Smashers who believed that life was better during the blip. I was like, oh, I guess I was I staring at my phone during that part of the episode? Because I did lose that as well, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that just made perfect sense, because,
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of the Flag Smasher in the comics was that he just wanted to tear down all country borders.
I see.
And it's like, and it was just kind of just an 80s or 90s things. But now,
One world.
yeah, exactly. Well, when you put it into the situation of what you have after the blip, man, all of a sudden that makes really, really good sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they did work that plot point from the comics well into the blip from the movie. So well done.
And then of course, you have all those Flag Smashers who have, through the power broker, obtained basically some equivalency to the super soldier serum. So, you have Sam Wilson and Bucky being somewhat powered, but Sam Wilson not, and neither is, our new Captain America or Battlestar. They're just normal guys going up against super soldiers, and they really, you see in the first fight between those two groups, they didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we want to talk a little bit about? I guess obviously this is going to be spoiler, right? For anybody who's listening. But how big of a surprise was it for you whenever we learned that the power broker was Sharon Carter?
It was, for me. It was. I almost disappointed too. I mean, I don't know. It's just that she's always a good person. I always thought, and
Yeah.
and yeah, but I get it. That's maybe that's for shock value, but it was definitely a surprise. I mean, some people say, well, yeah, I seen that coming. Yeah, right. There is always people that say that, but I did not see that coming.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of mystery around it. I think probably because of the acquisition of all of the other characters that could potentially be in the Marvel universe now, right? So there's ideas of, is it somebody that's in the Fantastic Four world or the X-Men world, and is this where mutants come from? Because everybody's just grabbing that next way that we can pull in these characters that we haven't seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. And so it seemed like that mystery character of the Power Broker was something that everybody was talking about every week. Was, could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be? But Sharon's name was thrown around, seemed like significantly through that pool of people as well. So when it came up, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I've heard that name for about 4 weeks now, that it could be Sharon Carter. So okay, I guess let's do that.
One thing I've learned from this show is that there's not much a character can do that they can't come back from with some redemption.
Yeah.
So true. I'm sure she'll still, dust off the bad things and she'll be okay.
Yeah.
But still, I did not expect that.
Well, whenever she gets reintroduced and they're in Madripoor, you go to her place and she has all of these extremely valuable items just sitting around her home, and I'm like, no, it couldn't be her. And I just didn't want to believe it, because in the comics, there's always the story with Captain America is like, who's Captain America's love interest. Well, while in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for me, it's Peggy Carter.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, it's Sharon Carter.
Yeah.
And of course, since now they've already established in the movies that, it's Steve and Peggy, well, what's Sharon around for? So they had to give her a new job in the MCU. So this is basically what they decided
Double
to give
agent,
her was was the whole power broker thing, which is again dramatically different than what we kind of had in the in the comics, because it was, it was related to the super soldier serum, but different character, not somebody that we knew. It was a new character, so there were some changes there. So
I mean, I guess there's always an easy out that if they don't want her to be this person, that it could be just a scroll, right? I mean,
I guess that's true. Coming up with Secret Invasion,
That is the trope. That's a common thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How shocked were you to see John Walker do what he did with the shield? That was pretty, brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the story of John Walker, U.S. agent, or any of that, but I was like, holy cow, that's some action there. That's a move.
Well, I mean, in the comics, John Walker starts as a bad guy and becomes
Okay.
sympathetic. Here in Falcon and Winter Soldier, he starts as a sympathetic character and then kind of becomes the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the comics, he was basically just there he was like the new guy on the block because Captain America's old.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to be gone because nobody cares about him anymore. Here in the series, it's like, hey, I'm gonna be the next Captain America. Captain America's gone. I want somebody to live up to those ideals. And then, of course, in the comics, Battlestar never dies, right? So there's not that rage thing to occur. So it was a completely different, situation in the series than what it would have been from the comics. This is, you talk about, people talk about learning things from comics. So this is kind of like a little aside. Whenever John Walker became Captain America in the comics, Lamar Hoskins became Bucky. Well, however many issues later, I think it was Mark Gruenwald was the writer at the time, and maybe I'm wrong who the writer was, but he started getting fan letters that said, hey, you know that Bucky is a derogative term for a black person.
Oh.
So that's why his name got changed to Battlestar. And there's even a letter response from, again, whoever the writer was at this time. It's, and he wrote a response. I had no idea. It's just, yeah. So that's why we had to change. So and that's another reason why, Lamar Hoskins was never referred to as Bucky during this series because for that reason. I think they may have even commented on that a little bit at one point in the series. I may just be associating something with it that shouldn't be associated with it, but yeah. Did anybody watch the Zemo dance cut?
I did not.
I didn't either. Mike, what about you?
No, I heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
It took the world by storm a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I need an hour of Zemo dancing. That's me, but all right. So Isaiah Bradley, I thought was a really good character for the second episode. And of course, again, his story was changed a little bit from the comics. In the comics, he was a World War II guy who was basically involuntarily tested on to try to recreate the super soldier serum. Here, it was during was it Korean War?
Korean War, yeah.
Korean War that he actually, he was experimenting on then. And there are even some alternate Marvel universe stories where he's actually the first Captain America.
Yeah.
But he was really, really, I thought, used well in the story and kind of was a nice counterpoint for Sam Wilson somebody to talk to and see some opposing ideas. And it also gave a little bit of history about what was going on and some things that were going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe between World War II and present day, because you don't get a whole lot of that, in the movies. You only have so much time. So
yeah, and he continued to do work for the government all throughout for, I think it said like 30 years or something. Well,
he didn't work for the government. He was incarcerated by the government.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Now, one thing to remember, though, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that the government was basically controlled by Hydra, not controlled by, reputable individuals, because Hydra kind of controlled S.H.I.E.L.D. There up until Winter Soldier. So, but yeah, anyway. And then Madripoor is a location that I expect that we will see a lot more in the future for Marvel Cinematic, especially if they do introduce the X-Men, which we know they will at some point, because Madripoor was first spoken of in New Mutants, of all books.
Okay.
Which is where you had the first mention or appearance of Madripoor.
That's like Grand Central Station now in Marvel Universe, right? I mean, it's kind of DC's got a lot of imaginary locales, whereas Marvel was always known for having, real world cities. New York was always where all the heroes were. But I had never heard of Madripoor before this show, but now I understand it's it's very, very prolific.
Yep. It's kind of like the seedy underbelly of the Marvel Universe. So, Let's see. What other notes I have here? Oh, and then Julia Louis-Dreyfus coming in as the Contessa. And she's an old Nick Fury flame. So,
Okay.
Oh,
that
I
was
mean, it felt like
fun.
her appearance was pretty short though. You think they had more? They planned on doing
Okay,
more with
you
her, or
did watch the post credits, the second post credit scene with her. So you saw both of her scenes, didn't you?
no, no.
Oh, okay. You know you have a fast forward on your remote that you can skip through the actual credits and just see if there's anything.
I forget about that in a TV show. Okay, I'll
Okay.
go back.
So they have a second scene with her where she is with John Walker and suits him up as the U.S. agent.
Oh,
Yes.
So now, of course, people are speculating that we're going to get the Dark Avengers. Because then, U.S. agent will be the Captain America version, and then they'll get some of the other, we already got, the Iron Man armor, like the War Machine armor.
Mhm.
So that could be, the replacement Iron Man, and so yeah, and on and on and on.
Don Cheadle's too old to be playing that part though anymore. He's getting up there.
It's all CGI. He could play it till he's 90. I
So
mean, because
at some point, he's got to step out of the armor.
he can just sit down,
Okay.
he doesn't have to, it was like going back to Solo, Peter Mayhew, who had,
Yeah.
Severe arthritis. I mean, he was just there for some of the scenes were the non-action scenes,
Mhm.
and then they had a double for the action type scenes. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, with that being all basically CGI, they just need him to sit still and he can just walk around in the armor. They just CGI his head on the armor.
Yeah. Okay.
So he could
And
be warped forever.
they shortly after episode 6 dropped, they announced that Captain America 4, they were working on that, and so I'm sure the U.S. agent battle obviously is not over, and I assume we'll see Julie Louis-Dreyfus again in probably in that I would assume.
Yeah, I think she may be the new Nick
The,
Fury
okay,
cameo is kind of what I'm guessing, and maybe it's
that
going
makes
to build
sense.
up to something,
Yeah.
because Samuel L. Jackson was kind of, even without being Nick Fury, which is kind of an iconic personality.
Hmm.
And now, I mean, how many other personalities are out there that you can really be as iconic as Samuel L. Jackson? And
Right.
there's only a handful, and well, Julia Louis-Dreyfus might be one of them that are at least in the ballpark.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, instead of forming the Avengers, she's going to form the Dark Avengers. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It remains to be seen. So.
Yeah, and maybe they'll be they might de-age her for the Secret
There
Wars,
you go.
maybe, or something, and maybe they'll show some Nick Fury and her like together.
Of course, it
Perhaps.
was the Caucasian Nick Fury that Contessa was with,
I
not
gotcha.
the grandson version of
Okay.
Fury. So that's really more the Nick Fury we have in the Marvel Cinematic is the Ultimates universe Nick Fury,
Yes. Yeah.
as opposed to the 616 version of Nick Fury. So, though they've kind of changed that a little bit now in the current Marvel
Yeah.
comic.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes here, and I didn't really have anything else that, that I wanted to mention. Do you guys have anything you want to mention?
I think that hits all the big points, all the story points that kind of were covered. We didn't really talk about the Dora Milaje in there, but they kind of just made a quick couple of episodes in and out, caused a little trouble, beat some faces in, and moved on.
I wondered why they didn't take Zemo back to Wakanda instead of taking him he went to the raft. I
Yeah.
thought they wanted to, make him pay for his past deeds. But, what do you think of Sam's speech at the end about his defensive posture with the Flag Smashers?
That's one to me. That's more a reflection of our current times. The times that we are living in. So, we knew that we were going to get a speech like that, at some point, just because of the whole concept of there being, that's Isaiah Bradley kept saying that, nobody will respect a black Captain America, and
Yeah.
no black person should ever want to be Captain America, right?
Yeah.
So because people have different views on what it means to be what America means. So I don't know really what to say about it. It was fine.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you said it already. It's a reflection on. I mean, I think they were writing to today's audience.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I still have my opinions. I think the flag smashers were still terrorists. I mean, I don't care how good or altruistic your motives were. If you kill people and intend to kill lots of people, then you just can't do that. But
Yeah.
then again, it's like I said, just enough real world, thought provoking stuff to make us have these discussions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a period piece, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the Flag Smashers too. I mean, that was a change. Them becoming a terrorist group that happened during this series. I mean, up until the second or third, I can't remember what episode it was that Battlestar was killed. Up until that point, there hadn't been. Well, okay, I take it back. There was the scene prior to that where they blew up the one place, right? Up until that point, they had really just been freedom fighters, I guess you would say. But then at that point, then they become terrorists. So it becomes a different situation.
Yeah. Well, they say one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, or vice versa.
Oh yeah. So, well, we got to grade this.
Oh, sure.
I'm actually gonna go. Mike, you've been saying that we got to be careful with our grades, right? And I don't remember what I graded WandaVision at, but I'm gonna go with very fine on this, which is an 8.0. I'm definitely glad I watched it. I will absolutely at some point in the future watch it a second time. I think it has meaning. If I had to pick, my top 5 Marvel Cinematic Universe things, this probably wouldn't be in the top 5. But it's still good, and it's better than a lot of other stuff that's available for us on TV right now. So
Sure. Well, all things being relative, you're right. It's right that you can't compare it to. I mean, you can't avoid comparing it to what's come before. I still will see your 8.0 and say 8.5, 8.5, which is a very fine plus. I think it was just good comfort food action, and then also with a dose or a dash of, thought-provoking controversy or whatever. So did it have some issues a little bit, but man, it was very enjoyable.
I guess I was just say one more thing about that. The other thing, the reason why I kind of temper my rating down a little bit is because even it's kind of like a big event in Marvel Comics. You have all these big events that are supposed to be world affecting, and then nothing comes out of them, right? I really, anything that comes out of these series, whenever it gets to the movies, it's going to be minor as compared to what happens in the movies, because you can't have big changes in characters occur between films.
True.
So its impact is not going to be that. I don't think its impact is going to be that broad. And I could Captain America 4 could prove me wrong. So
yeah, I'm very curious to see because it could in that there's a. Are they gonna really just start a movie with a whole new Captain America and not explain it? That'll be the true test. Will be if these shows are really meant to hold up level to level with the movies, then we should be able to go in and Sam is Captain America. We don't talk about it. We just get right into the plot.
Well, what they will do though with the movies is because we have that whole cameo and post-credit scenes. I think before there's a Captain America 4, we will see Sam Wilson as Cap in a cameo and post-credit scene.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I would go with an 8.0. Very fine. I agree with Scott. It just didn't pull me in every week. I knew I was gonna watch it because I was like, well, I have to watch it. Like it was like required reading for me to do every week, and I didn't. It wasn't punishable, but it just didn't pull me in. And honestly, the way that even like WandaVision did, I was excited to see what kind of thing I was going to get in WandaVision every week. I dug that story. This one it didn't pull me in as much. I don't know if it's because I have a short attention span and the longer length of episode. Yeah, exactly. Shiny object was just like I really dug that I was getting a Marvel thing in 25 minutes with WandaVision sometimes. But so yeah, it was still great. It was still really good. I still really enjoyed the story, but I'll go with an 8.0.
I'll give it to you that the acting was better in WandaVision. I thought Elizabeth
Yeah.
Olsen especially, and not to say these guys were anybody on this show
No, yeah.
were great actors, but it's just I get what you're saying. But again, I think we're all in the same ballpark. There was nothing. All those little nitpicks they really don't detract from the overall enjoyment.
I loved the comfort food. The phrase "comfort food" that you used, Mike, was like that's perfect. That's a perfect way to describe it.
It will be interesting to see with Captain America 4 if Anthony Mackie can carry a movie the way Chris Evans carried a movie.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't think Chris Evans was the right choice for Captain America, and boy was I ever wrong. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that Captain America 4. I will definitely see that as early as I can. So, but I have some concerns. So, all right. Well, we want to switch gears and go to DC and talk a little bit about Justice League.
Yeah, the
Snyder Cut of Justice League.
That's right. Zack Snyder's Justice League, the official title.
Okay, there we go. So get that in there. So, whenever I was watching it, I just pulled out my phone and just started making little notes about thoughts that I had. I did, so like I'm just gonna go through this list, and then you guys can jump in whenever you want.
Yeah.
And we'll just go from there. So right out of the gate, my very first comment was that we had a whole heck of a lot more background on Steppenwolf than what we did in the previous version of Justice League, and there wasn't a lot, but it was just enough for us to understand a little bit the motivation of the character, why he was doing what it was he was doing, instead of he's just a big bad guy that was there. So
my note says I wasn't confused why Steppenwolf was there this time.
There you go. Yeah. So that, to me, that alone helped the movie quite a bit.
I mean, given the idea that his motivation was to please Darkseid, it wasn't just random. It was very clearly pointed out. And now I forget, is Darkseid his father, or is that Calabac that is Darkseid's son, other than Orion?
I don't remember, and I should know that.
I don't think he is. I'm the one that should know that, but I think it's Calabac and Orion are the two sons.
Right.
But
while
either
you're
way,
talking, I'll see if I can find out.
Yeah.
And outside of just Steppenwolf's story being better, I thought his CGI, along with Cyborg's, was more tolerable. I don't know if it's because it was visually just a darker tone to the movie. So it always seems like I always hear that CGI is easier to do when you have a darker movie overall. A bright movie makes CGI look real fake, whereas a darker movie, you can hide things a lot easier in that. And I just liked his armor way better in his face.
And Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle.
Oh. Well.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Okay. So there. Yeah.
All in the family.
Okay.
What you're saying, Shaad, that's right. I thought that when I seen the cover or seen the splash of the grayed out, the very dark tones again, I thought, there's going to be a lot of people complaining about it, but it didn't. It was okay with me.
Yeah.
I do like a brighter colored, movie, but it's not really something that's going to, in this setting, I think you just can't really have those bright colors and have it work.
Yeah. Agreed.
My second note is the Flash is basically an unnecessary character in these movies, because Wonder Woman and Superman can both move at super speed. So what is the Flash there for?
Yeah.
No. Don't be blaming this on the Flash. This is Zack Snyder's overindulgence in slow motion. Okay, yeah, true. Diana has the speed of Hermes, and Superman also is well known for his very close to Flash speeds. But I don't agree with making an expose of that at every turn, because Flash, that's his one power, right? And he can vibrate, time travel, whatever, all those ancillary powers that come with the super speed and the connection to the Speed Force. But I agree with that. But that is definitely creator a creator caused problem with the Flash. So give up your hate on the actor.
I'm just saying, for purposes of the story, he didn't have to be there.
Yeah,
They
I
could
guess
have.
the only part that he played was in this cut, and the other cut was being able to start the electricity for the mother box to raise Superman. That he could only go that fast in order to do that.
And since they give, Wonder Woman new powers every single time she shows up, she could have had that power anyway. So,
Fair.
But now that being said, I was not as bothered by the Flash in this version as I was in the original Justice League.
There's more fleshed out character.
Exactly.
It seemed like he was.
Yeah, he's not just randomly. Right. He's just not randomly quippy for the sake of being quippy.
Yeah.
I think they gave a better backstory to both him and Cyborg.
Absolutely.
And Cyborg especially, I think he was a compelling character. I really, it did bug me about his costume being so crinkly, but with the dark tones, I think it made it better. Mm-hmm. Wonder Woman, I don't know, did she show an extra power in this movie, or are you thinking of Wonder Woman 84?
I'm referring to in 1984 and in the other one where they just gave her powers that she never had before. So
the whole God power,
and turn things invisible, and I'll lasso lightning, and see, she could have just lassoed lightning down, and
They've done that with Thor over the years too, extended out his power set, with the connection with lightning and stuff. But
not so much
in the movie,
in the movies,
right.
But they're doing it in the movies, having her do stuff that she never really did in the comics.
Yeah.
So, hey, we got Green Lantern though twice, right?
Sort of, yeah.
There was the big fight scene at the beginning, so there was Green Lantern there, and then where else was Green Lantern?
It was at the end. That was John Jones.
John Jones, yeah. There was something else. Maybe just another scene where they were flashing back.
I think it should have been Green Lantern in that that last scene. It should have been John Stewart Green Lantern and not.
It was supposed to be.
Oh, it was.
Yes,
okay.
It was supposed to be John Stewart Green Lantern, and for some reason, the studios wouldn't let him do that. So.
They've got another idea and they want to use it.
I guess so.
They're going to hold on to it for 15 years until they actually use it instead of just having some cake there.
Yeah, shoot, I won't be around in that come on.
Now, okay, one of my notes here is that why wouldn't Wonder Woman have recognized the mother box technology in Cyborg, since she had been around the mother box, because that was part of what the Amazonians did, was guard one. Right. Why didn't she realize, that was mother box tech in Cyborg? I don't know. That was just, like I said, that was just kind of a random thought. So maybe not worth discussing.
Do they know what the mother box can do, or do they just protect it because they know that they need to protect it? I guess would be the counter argument is they really don't. They maybe don't want to know what the mother box can do or what technology it has. They just know that it needs to not go anywhere.
Well, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, she would have, or at least it would have been passed down through the Amazonians about like the boom tube stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So whenever Cyborg boom tubes, Mm-hmm.
Overall, this was a vast improvement on the Whedon version.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't really like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
No.
I'm not really convinced about him. I'm still the one thing they put back into this Snyder cut is what we've seen in the trailer for the original movie was Aquaman walking down that pier and throwing the whiskey bottle in the water, and Aquaman is an eco, almost to the point of being an eco terrorist. He is like going to kick some butt if you litter, and here we have him just doing that. So
so about Jesse Eisenberger, remember, he's not necessarily Lex Luthor. I always picture him as Alex Luthor. So as the son of Lex Luthor more so than the father.
Oh, okay.
That's how I portray. That's how I imagine that character.
And that would make sense if I know you got Bruce Wayne being a little bit older. The ages are all out of whack here as compared to the comics, but that would make sense. He does look. He was more like that. He had full head of hair in the first movie. So
And that goes back to in Batman v Superman where he gives that speech and talks about his father.
I
Right.
see.
So that's how I take that. So it's kind of a different. It was like a legacy version of Lex Luthor instead of the comic version of Lex Luthor. So
Interesting.
the Iris West introduction scene I thought was really, really good, where she's in the automobile accident and Barry's there applying for a job and sees it, and then he does the whole time thing and our speed thing and rescues her. And yeah, I thought that was actually a good scene. I was glad they added that in, even though it really didn't mean anything for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. You tell it was probably just setting up Iris for what the Flash movie maybe was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Are still going to be, supposedly.
Yeah. Supposedly.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Martian Manhunter? Not in the end credit, or not in the end, not in that last scene, but in the middle of the movie where he went to Lois's apartment. Did you understand what was the purpose of that? Because wouldn't it be easy for Lois to find out that next time she sees
the general that it was
yeah.
That was weird. I thought, and then again, I think that was another one of those scenes that maybe it was supposed to have been somebody else, and they just reused. And I looked up that actor's name not too long ago, and now I've forgotten what his name is again. And I just wonder if because he'd been in the films previously, they just went back to him instead of doing what they wanted to. I don't know. I'm speculating.
I gotcha.
That.
Yeah, that would make more sense than what they did. So just some sort of reason why that existed.
Yeah. But it would be easy, like you said, the next time they ran into her, hey, you remember that time when you? It's like, I didn't do that. Yeah, because he showed up as Superman's, or as Ma Kent, right? I'm blanking on the scene.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember right. Yeah.
And then he leaves, and it turns back into John Jones, right?
Correct. And he went there as Martha Kent.
That's right.
To convince Lois to keep working, or to not stay holed up or whatever. And again, though, I mean, eventually you would think Lois would talk to her former mother-in-law again, say, "Hey, I'm glad you talked to me that day," and it just seemed really not well thought out.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really geeked. I was really excited to see the Martian Manhunter. I'm like, oh my goodness. I would have been more excited to see it be like John Stewart, Green Lantern, use his ring to change his appearance for that scene.
But that'd be a new power for that they don't necessarily have.
Yeah, there are some comics where they said the ring could that ring can do some things that they probably shouldn't do. But yeah, it would have been a new power. But they could have done something else to disguise that. Black suit Superman. Yeah. I had that note.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I was in for it. I wanted to see more of it.
Yeah. I'm just not sure what's the motivation to have that? Is that just, he had other suits to pick from as he's walking through there.
When we had those Krypton scenes in Man of Steel, they were all in black in those scenes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to me, it's just like he's going back to the original.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be. That could be okay. Yeah. I only have one more negative. Like I told you, I really enjoyed the movie, but so the only notes I took were like nitpicks. But at the very end, not the very end, but the big fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that fight scene was well choreographed. That was really well done. But why did Wonder Woman need to take off Steppenwolf's head and roll it up to? That's just not what the Justice League does. Now they could have easily just thrown his body and all up there to. They already had him well defeated. Throw him through that portal and then have Darkseid step on his head and do the same thing that he did anyway. I was like, that's definitely a Snyder thing there, and I could have done without that. It just seemed a little gratuitous.
My view on Wonder Woman that's one of the reasons why I like the New Frontier, is because of how Wonder Woman is portrayed in the New Frontier, where they go hardcore into the Amazon part. It's like she is physically larger than Superman in those stories. Mm-hmm. And if she really is if they're going to lean into that warrior aspect, then that's why I think they had that scene. Because that was one of the big gripes. Well, Superman can't kill him because then we have all the Man of Steel haters because Superman killed somebody. So, okay, let's have somebody else, do the killing. So that, to me, that made sense to me if you take the Amazonian, for Wonder Woman and not so much the love and, the original version.
True. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
that's just how I take it. So,
and it all kind of ties. It all ties into, and almost every part of this movie is a splash page or is a cell from a comic, and you can envision it more than I think I can in any other movie. And so what's not cooler than a cell of a head rolling across, so you can totally just see that as a page on a comic.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a really good point. I'm probably just too connected to my comic book headcanon. Yeah.
With the extra time in the movie, we got a lot better introduction of the new characters. Like, there was more time spent with Flash's introduction, and more time spent especially with Cyborg's introduction.
Yeah.
Which I think went a long way to have the movie make more sense.
Definitely. And I felt like even though for as blocked off as it was because it had chapters with title cards, I felt like it flowed so much more and it felt less blocky than the original Justice League. That one felt like, here's a scene, let's move to another area. Here's a scene in that original Justice League, and this felt like it had so much more of a flow to it, and it kind of felt like reading issues of a comic book. And I don't know why they chose not to do it in a series form, giving you one a week, because I know that was the original concept behind it, because it really just felt like it was ready to do that too. So, but either way, it was easily consumed for a 4-hour thing, I thought.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. I watched it in 3 sittings. Yeah. How about you guys?
I watched it in 2.
The first time I watched it twice now. First time I watched it in 2, and then the second time I watched it in 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talk about nitpicking stuff. So like the first time that Cyborg meets, I think it was Diana, he basically wants to meet her just so he can say no, he doesn't want to be part of it, right? Like, what why?
Some people just want to feel wanted, Scott.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, I got a note here, and I have no idea why I wrote this note. Why did they always aim weapons at the mother box? I guess maybe it's like in all the scenes with it's like the Amazon scene with the mascara. The mother box is doing something, so they're all aiming their bows and arrows and pointing their swords at the mother box. It's like,
maybe they know that something can come out of it.
I guess so.
They're waiting.
Let's see, what else do I got? Why does Steppenwolf need the wall to put the mother boxes in? Oh, okay, that was dumb. Okay. So going back to the whole Martian Manhunter thing and Martha Kent, I put that was, Martian Manhunter was cool, but Martha Kent would have done and said those things anyway, so why not just have Martha Kent come up and say those things?
Right. And the other thing about Martian Manhunter, I'm like that end scene, it's, okay, if I was Bruce Wayne or Batman, I'd be like, oh, hey, great, glad to know that you'd like to join the Justice League and we could use your help, but where were you, for the past several weeks when we're fighting all this? Yeah, where have you been? Nice of you to join now.
Thanks for joining up after the dust has settled.
Yeah.
Okay, so another big, I think this is an important distinction between the Whedon version and the Snyder version. In the Whedon version, they just wanted to bring Superman back. In the Snyder version, they had to bring Superman back.
Mm-hmm, true.
Which I think is an important distinction. I thought there was still some humor in this, but it was a whole lot more subdued and not as in your face as it was in the Whedon version.
Yeah.
One of my big problems with both of these movies, though, was the need for the resurrection of Superman. Because at the end of Batman v Superman, when he's in the coffin, you see the stuff vibrating on the coffin. They've already established that he's coming back at the end of that movie. We don't need all this resurrection stuff.
I thought about that last
unnecessary.
night. When I was rewatching the end of it, I was like, why? Yeah. What happened to that? We never went back to the dirt floating.
Yeah, they just completely, just like they forgot it was. They didn't watch the extra credit scene like Atchison. So they forgot that it was there.
I got stuff to do.
The Lois Lane pregnancy test. Yeah, so that
I
was
almost forgot about that. Actually, I did forget about that until you just brought it up. I am going to have to watch this again, Shaad.
And I thought the Kevin Costner photo in the one scene was a nice touch to go all the way back to Man of Steel. Yeah. So we had all the stuff about the nightmare sequences, which that epilogue was a nice touch. Mm-hmm. But you had that scene with that was where the other Green Lantern was. There was a dead lantern in one of those scenes.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And the broken up Hall of Justice, which was kind of cool. Okay, so I still don't care for this version of Cyborg, because my note here is that they just turned Cyborg into a Blue Beetle, the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. His powers are basically the exact same as what the Blue Beetles are. Okay, so what did you think about the 4:3 ratio for the film, where you had the black bars down the side?
Yeah. I got used to it fairly quickly. It was at first it was a little off-putting because I wondered why they. I know that it said it was for artistic whatever for it, but
Snyder's vision.
Yeah, but he shot it in widescreen because we saw all the other stuff that he had cut, or that made it to the original, to the Justice League cut, and so I wondered. Why? Was that really truly why? Is it because of that, or? Okay, so
I'm not a film person,
mm-hmm.
but it's my understanding that James Cameron does the same thing, and they shoot in the 4:3 because you can go in and take out the 16:9 section that you want to shoot out of that 4:3. So you actually get more footage, and it may have a little bit to do with IMAX as well, because with IMAX you get the slightly taller image, so you actually can make the argument that you're getting more than what you are getting whenever you just look at 16:9. So because that what they shot, or what goes into the theater, is just a section of the 4:3, so you're actually losing stuff at the top and the bottom. So after that stuff doesn't bother me, but like my dad, I go to my dad's house, and he, for the longest time, didn't upgrade his satellite package to HD, so he was just getting the 4:3. So he would go to his TV and do that zoom thing where it stretches everything out. And I'm like, this looks so bad. Why are you doing this? Because I'm paying for a widescreen TV. I want widescreen. It's like, okay, whatever. Let's see. I like the choice of showing the black suit. There were a couple of scenes that I would have liked to have actually seen in 3D, like that scene where he throws the batarang at Barry, and it's kind of flying at him, and he does the whole reach back and catch it thing. That could have been a cool 3D scene. I have a note on that same thing about a cool 3D scene, the Tai Chi. I don't know. I can't even remember the Tai Chi scene now. What that was even about. So I don't know.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we should do a live watch.
Maybe
a watch along. Yeah.
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 You already talked about the more brutal end to Steppenwolf. Willem Dafoe looks wrong with long hair.
Oh yeah. Don't get me started on all of a sudden you got Mira with the British accent, only because that's what Zack Snyder wanted. I mean, come on. There's got to be some oversight here. But that seemed wrong, just like Volko didn't look right with the long hair.
And going back to here's an opportunity for me to rip on Aquaman again. Willem Dafoe looks so lost in the Aquaman movie. He just looks so out of place, and he looked out of place here too. So
yeah, I don't just.
Okay, was the Atom introduced in the Whedon version of Justice League?
No.
Okay,
no.
So we got the Atom.
Ryan Choi version. No, this is it is, and I mean seeing things like that, And like you said, Lois being pregnant and the introduction of Martian Manhunter, I'm thinking, man, it would really be great if they did,
Mhm.
continue this or have a sequel. It's just not going to happen, though. I'm almost sure.
Yeah. No, I think they've already said that it's not going to happen.
Yeah. No matter how much they demand it. Yeah, I was oddly nostalgic for it, and had a sense of like, oh, that is my Batman and my Superman for the moment, like a little bit more than I ever cared about it during the Joss Whedon movie. I was like, I was happy to see those people again.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care for it originally, so that was kind of it was unexpected to kind of feel that way about even like the Batfleck and everything. And I've never been a big Henry Cavill fan, but now I'm like, Henry Cavill's Superman. It makes all the sense.
He is.
I've been 100% on the Cavill bandwagon of Superman since Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So I hope he gets another shot. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's earned it.
All right. So if DC wants to catch up with Marvel, this is how they can do it. Epilogues.
Yes.
Epilogues in this were so cool. And if they can put together little 10, 15-minute little things at the end of all their upcoming movies, they can rapid start, new DC universe.
Oh yeah.
So that would be really, really cool. I really enjoyed the epilogues on the Snyder Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't expecting that whole entire scene, Nightmare, to be a whole scene. I was expecting to be some point during the movie, not an epilogue at the end.
Its whole 10, 15-minute section or whatever it was. I kind of wish, I know we had to get the Martian Manhunter thing at the end, but I kind of wish they would have just ended with the nightmare sequence, and that way you didn't know if it was real or if it was a nightmare. It just kind of was left open.
Of course, that second Martian Manhunter was supposed to have really been Jon Stewart, which would have been cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my last comment here was just that it goes to show that having that extra time, was gave you the time to introduce the characters. It made the Flash and Cyborg make more sense. And I definitely see what Ray Fisher was talking about when he said that most of his stuff was cut out of the movie, because it was definitely cut out of the movie. You were gonna say something, Mike?
I forgot what it was, but it easily could have been 3 movies. I mean,
yeah. It's and those characters are so rich in story, and getting to know those characters seem very important to why they do the things they do, and you can't forget about that part of it. It seems like that Joss Whedon's Justice League really was just like, let's get to the meat. Let's not really worry about any of the fluff in there.
It's about the details.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, do you guys got any more comments on this one?
I got just a couple of things. The soundtrack was different in this as well than it was in there. I liked where it sat in the mix a lot better. I felt like it had times where it kind of was just a good background music. A lot more electric guitar, rock epic kind of in it. So I really enjoyed that. Kind of the same as the Batman v Superman tone was to it. And the only thing that I even missed out of the Justice League, the Joss Whedon one, was I did like the little nod to the Flash versus Superman race at the tail end. And that was the only thing that I was like, oh, that's gone.
I had that same thought, Shaad, that's the one piece of the Whedon movie that I wish they would have had in this one here.
Yeah.
I forgot that it wasn't in there. So
yeah, it didn't, I guess, make sense for the tone by the time you got to the end of the movie. So
they could have found room for that. I didn't. I guess I thought that this was actually part of this one. I guess I'm combining the movies now.
Right. I've really punished myself. I watched the Zack Snyder one, then I went back to the original, the Joss Whedon one, and then back to the Zack Snyder one.
Oh wow. You were more committed than we were. All right, well, grades on this one. I'll start. I'll go. Yeah. I'm going to go very fine / near mint, which is a 9.0. I don't know. That may be high just because of how much more I enjoyed it than the Justice League, and I may be giving too many props to Zack Snyder with that. But it was just such a better experience than the first Justice League that it just feels significantly better. So
You go, Shaad.
I'm teeter-tottering on it. I'll go with the 9.2 with a near mint minus. I really feel like I've got a big. I like Zack Snyder's his way that he makes movies. Just the way that they look and feel. I watched it a couple of times, so that's got to say something because that's 8 hours worth of a commitment there to it, and I think it's. If done in the right way, this could be very influential on how comic book movies are made going forward in the way that it's formatted and the way that it flows. It just felt like a comic book in movie form.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm waiting to see your rating because of how your reaction's been to both of ours.
I'm supposed to be the DC guy, and then you guys, I'm having a very fine in my head, an 8 point.
That's still good. I mean, that's still really good. It's actually not good. It's very fine, but
yeah. Fine.
Very fine.
I think probably that I'm a victim of my own DC altruism, or stick to what I know about DC, and that's probably takes away from all the good points of it. But no, I think an 8.0. A very fine is appropriate. I think it could have been better. It would have been better. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to see what's in the cards in the next generation of DC movies. But I got to give Zack Snyder props for, I honestly, I was one of those people that said, there is no Snyder Cut. There is no, this is all internet BS. But I'm glad that there was. I'm glad it came out. And I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying though about, you have your vision of what a DC character is supposed to be like because I'm the same way about Marvel. And it's like, I'm actually glad that they are done with Steve Rogers, Captain America in the current Marvel cinematic because of where they are taking all of their characters. It's all, they're turning them all into variations of Deadpool. And I don't want to see that happen to the characters. It's like, you go back to the days of like Justice League International and Justice League Europe with the Wahaha League. And I can see a lot of people who are Justice League people like not liking that because it was kind of poking fun at some of their characters. But for me, I didn't have a lot invested in those characters. That's my favorite run of Justice League, period. So
yeah, good point.
All right, well, we ready to move down to back to Marvel and dive into some Immortal Hulk?
Yeah.
All right, well, Shaad, we already covered issues 1 through 5 on a previous episode. I know that you read the first 5 before you got into 6 to 10. Do you have anything you'd like to comment on those first 5 issues?
Really just a couple of things. You guys were like, hey, we're doing this. So I jumped right into it. I didn't read anything about it. I didn't know that this was like the horror, Hulk story. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. I had no idea. Just went in cold, just like right into issue 1. And as I got there, I was like, this is kind of gets a little gruesome here and there and gets a little funky. And I dug it. It was a pleasant surprise, on there. But I really enjoyed the stuff with Sasquatch. I'm just kind of know a little bit about Marvel. I don't read a lot on that side or hadn't. But I knew who Sasquatch was and I knew that he's part of Alpha Flight. And that was about it. So seeing this kind of interaction with Hulk and Sasquatch, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool interaction fight. And how it all ended. So I'm definitely interested in this. The horror thing was a good surprise. So I'm so excited that we're going to continue to read this.
All right. Well, I'm gonna. I don't have a written synopsis, so I'm just gonna kind of flip through pages and just kind of retell what's going on as briefly as I can. I don't want to start reading panels or anything like that. I don't want to go that far with it.
I can read my little synopsis if you want me to.
Well, if that's what you want to do, I mean that's fine with me.
Okay,
so.
There might be some wrong things in there, but you guys can correct it along the way.
There we go. All right.
So issue 6, diving into that after defeating Sasquatch, The gamma radiation is absorbed by Hulk, along with something else that possessed Sasquatch. Everyone and their brother is looking for Bruce since they saw him during the public fight with Sasquatch. Shadow Base has their eyes on Bruce, on all of Bruce's known affiliates in case he contacts them, including Betty Ross, who doesn't think that that's Bruce because he hasn't reached out to her. So she's like, that can't be my Bruce because he hasn't called me yet. Right. And then General 14 and Dr. Clive from Shadow Base, which is a military division that's handling Hulk affairs, it looks like, discusses plans to defeat the Hulk with multiple monsters, potentially. They have Del Fry, who's from the first volume, and are looking to replicate him, but they need someone who is Hulk-like, and so they're looking at Walter Lankowski, the Sasquatch, and trying to figure out, like, maybe that would be a good guy to check out. Lankowski's with Alpha Flight and Captain Marvel, and is in discussion with Ford and Alpha Flight, or sorry, Captain Marvel is in discussion with 14 about kind of either we're going to get Lankowski or you're going to find Bruce Banner for us. And so she opts to track down Bruce Banner so that they can keep Sasquatch with them. There's a lot that happens in issue 6.
Yeah.
Which that is bogus as all get out, that her selling out the Hulk for Lankowski, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Bruce is, probably going to get out anyway, and Lankowski's now is just a normal guy. And if he goes to prison, he's going to be in prison. I mean, he's not getting out where, she might think that there's no way they're going to be able to hold the Hulk anyway.
That's true.
Yeah. And, a lot of this probably goes back to the Civil War days because, in Civil War II, Carol Danvers was on the opposite side of a lot of individuals. And while, Hulk wasn't really actively part of Civil War II, Carol Danvers made a lot of enemies. So I could definitely see her saying, I'm going to weigh my choices here and I'm going to choose one over the other. So.
And I think that's what I mean. I don't know that I think it's just, I got the effect that they intended for me to get.
Yeah.
Like, wow, man, that's bogus. Yeah. So, but I understand why she did it. I know one thing, that General 14, he's a bad guy. They really did a good job making him a bad guy.
And I'm going to say 40, not 14. I don't know. Okay. That's just me. I figure if they wanted it to be 14, they would have spelled it with 2 E's instead of EA.
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't have a pronunciation guide, just so I want to be clear.
I'll go with you on that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm probably wrong. So you probably should keep saying it the way you are wanting to say it. I like the way that, since Bruce and the Hulk are never really together at the same time, right? That, in the past, they've done different ways for them to communicate with each other. So you have this little, note writing where Bruce just kind of puts his pen on a piece of paper and just doesn't think. And all of a sudden the word home comes. And of course, that could have multiple meanings depending on who you ask. But, for Hulk, that's going to be where he was born, right? Which is going to be on the gamma base. Let's see. I liked the return of Mr. Fry, because remember we got 2 of these Frys, right? Mm-hmm. We got Mr. Fry and Dr. Fry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the son. Okay, because my first read through this, I kept thinking that this was Dr. Fry, not realizing that it was actually the son.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to catch on to that, and they still haven't done, well, at this point they haven't done a lot with that character yet. So, the scene where that towards the end, where he basically says, but that's my secret. It's like, hey, you can't turn into the Hulk just anytime you want. You got to die, right? And it's like, well, that's my secret. I'm already dead. That just harkened back to that scene in Avengers where, Mark Ruffalo is, it was my secret. I'm always angry. Well, his secret, he's already dead.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little flashback.
A little nod to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, there wasn't a whole lot of, horror or gruesomeness in this one.
No.
But
It was creepy. The creepiness of those monitors hanging upside down,
Oh
and
yeah.
they having their own little conversation about and then 14 or 14 or whatever, Fortois,
the
he
general,
comes in and checks them and kicks one of them, fires one of them on the spot. I'm like, but
because he has
that whole monitoring
he's having
thing was,
second thoughts. Should we be doing this?
He felt
yeah,
creepy. Yeah.
yeah. And my favorite scene in this issue was when She-Hulk, when Jennifer Walters was getting so angry about what he said, about what Bruce Banner said. That had some good emotional tug to it.
Yeah. And we get to the end of this episode, and they are bringing the big guns against the Hulk.
Oh, for
You
sure.
got Iron Man, you've got Thor, you've got Captain Marvel, you've got Ghost Rider, I'm and then of course She-Hulk. There aren't very many bigger bruisers in the Marvel universe in that group. So we know what's coming.
Absolutely.
So issue 7.
So at issue 7, we've got in Georgeville, Iowa, so in the middle of nowhere. They call it Code Green, which I thought was interesting that they just have a Code Green across the entire world probably, and that's due to the Avengers obviously fighting Hulk now. Thor references that Hulk is potentially that they've created something godlike or even devil-like. Which the Hulk says he likes that's referenced. So I think that's obviously a nod to where we're going with things. After the Hulk takes out most of the Avengers, they make sure that the area is clear of civilians and use the Helios laser to blast the Hulk, which kills him on the spot. And they turn the body over to the government. And then Shadow Base has Hulk towards the end of it. And this is the coolest thing where Dr. Clive has now chopped Hulk into tiny pieces and put him into a bunch of jars.
I like that the new name for the Hulk, Devil Hulk.
Yes.
So we've got an identity for this, personality of the Hulk. There's Professor Hulk and Joe Fixit, and so now we kind of have a name that we can refer to this particular Hulk. The artist definitely has something for people's teeth being knocked out. Because we see that, I don't know if it's for sure, Thor gets one of his teeth busted out, Hulk gets a tooth busted out at some point, probably in a future issue. So I thought, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
This was a great Avengers comic book. It really was. I mean, it was just, I'm glad they got Joe Bennett back on this issue. And that's the first time I've ever seen Thor get a tooth knocked out. Great sense of motion with the art, and just such a great fight scene. This was a good fight scene, and that's what half the issue was.
Mm-hmm.
So and then it ends up with that, like you said, that the dissected pieces of Hulk in jars. Wow, that's and that I can't wait till the next issue now.
And it wasn't this quick, but it felt like 2 panels in, Tony Stark's going, "Can I shoot him with my giant laser now?" And then 2 panels later, "Can I shoot him with my giant laser
just
now?"
like him, yeah.
Okay,
We
how
got
about
this
now?
laser. We got this. Yeah. We might need it. Yeah.
Can I shoot him with the giant laser now? Okay, he's ripped me out of my armor and nearly killed me. Can I shoot him with the giant laser now?
And Vai's like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. They keep telling him, no. It's like, I don't care. I'm doing it. I'm overriding you all. I get to push the red button and shoot my giant laser.
Nobody else is going to get hurt. Everybody else is out of the way.
In the print version of this issue, and it's not in the trade that I'm flipping through, but this was the month that did the memoriam for Gary Friedrich, who was Ghost Rider's creator. And it's funny that in the memoriam, they credit him as being co-creator of Ghost Rider, but Marvel sued him, and part of the resolution of the suit was that he could not say he was co-creator of Ghost Rider. So he really got a bad deal from Marvel, but they at least, gave him a nice memorial in the books that month. So
leave it to the big two to really diss on their
the people who made them, especially since Ghost Rider, not his version of Ghost Rider, but a version of Ghost Rider, was actually even part of this story.
It's in the book,
yeah. So issue 8.
On issue 8, Shadow Base has now chopped up the Hulk, obviously, into little pieces to study him And they've got him all separated, hoping they're like, okay, well, he can't attack us now, right? Because he's in little pieces and he's in jars. They're trying to determine the rules of his regeneration, how he comes back to life once he's dead, why he's the Immortal Hulk. The Avengers aren't told where Hulk has been taken, so they're trying to figure out, well, we turned him over to the government, but we can't track him. We can't. There's no. He's not showing up on the radiation signals. Nothing. So Captain Marvel reinstates Walter Lankowski into Alpha Flight, and since he is a gamma expert, doesn't really matter that he's not Sasquatch. And she's starting a new task force, we find out, to find the Hulk, named Gamma Flight. Unhappy with Captain Marvel's announcement about Gamma Flight, Dr. Clive instigates a move of the Shadow base. He's like, well, they're going to find us, so we gotta move on. Noticing that the Hulk's head is smiling, and realizes that the Hulk is probably figuring out things as they're figuring out things, and the little bit of experimenting they're doing, he's also taking notes, it looks like. And so Hulk does what I've noted as a sonic snap of sorts that breaks all the glass jars, and we find out how he can regenerate. He just pulls all of his stuff back together, and along with Dr. Clive getting in the mix of all of it, which was that was pretty gruesome. This was a good issue for some grody kind of things, and really pulling through that horror kind of grotesque element of pulling Dr. Clive into his body as he's growing back together, and then he makes his way to the surface, finding out he's in New Mexico, and that change from he needs to change back into Bruce Banner, that change that he has to kind of take to turn from Hulk back to Banner.
Right, it's almost painful to watch.
Yeah, it was rough. And then he heads home, quote unquote, to where Banner was first exposed to the radiation.
So we definitely get a very clear picture of the Hulk's regenerative abilities in this, and they're playing less on his invulnerability and more on his capability to regenerate very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Because in some of the previous issues, I mean, he was hurt by bullets, whereas, that in other Incredible Hulk stories, that wouldn't have mattered at all. He just shrugged all those off. So you already commented on the fact that he was basically allowing them to experiment on him, because quite frankly, he probably just didn't have the tools or the capability to do it himself. It's like, how can he chop off his own hand? So they've got the adamantium. The whole absorption of Dr. Clive that you mentioned, I mean, that was definitely creepy, and that's something that this character has never done before. So here we're getting an expansion of his abilities. And then of course, that leads to Bruce talking about, the Hulk kind of crossed the line. I can't remember if it's in the next issue or this issue. I think it was in this issue, right? Where he talks about he kind of crossed the line because he'd taken a life.
He knows he did something. It's like he doesn't know exactly what he did, but he knows he did something wrong in there, and he crossed some sort of line. Yeah, I liked that there was kind of, there's still that disconnect between the two of them, the Hulk and Bruce, but he can feel that something happened that wasn't supposed to happen.
And something that would have never happened in another Incredible Hulk book, but here as Hulk is getting ready to leave, the base, he grabs a lab coat, and you're like, why does Hulk need a lab
coat? He's thinking ahead.
Yeah, but he's thinking ahead, so that way he has it, whenever it's needed. So let's see here. I thought I had one more note, but I think I may have wrote this note in the wrong issue. Yeah. And then the transformation there at the end is very different than what we've seen from Hulk transformations before. Usually it's just the green guy gets smaller.
Right.
It's not the whole. I mean, he's got two heads, and that's not something that we normally see.
Almost like Jekyll and Hyde type transformation.
Yeah. Well, and the way that they talk through like mirrors at each other, or there's that also reminds me very Jekyll and Hyde. Like it's this kind of duality that they have in this story.
And then one more thing before we go on. Okay, so Mr. Fry is here, and it's actually I think the first issue where we saw that they've been talking about Mr. Fry still being in pain, and Dr. Clive is like, I don't care. And the other doctor is like, well, we can do something about that. And it kind of shows a difference in their personalities, which I think is going to become important later on in the story. So.
Okay. And I noticed I just kind of had caught my eye in the clouds is at the very last page of issue 8 is his dad in there. So I think and maybe this is going back. What is the significance of Bruce Banner's dad, of Brian Banner, to him, and what is that whole backstory?
So basically, Bruce came out of a very broken relationship. He was physically and mentally abused by his father. So it was an abusive relationship that he had. It's kind of I don't know if you ever saw the Yang Lee Incredible Hulk movie.
Oh yeah,
they kind of played into that a little bit more.
Okay,
but that's that. There's Some people are taking that relationship to be the reason why Banner has these multiple personalities is because of that relationship that he had with his father.
I see. So, okay.
But that came along many, many years after the creation of the Incredible Hulk. So that's not something that was there from the start.
Gotcha.
Issue 9.
So issue 9, we start out with the introduction of Carl Creel, Absorbing Man, who's being caught by Iron Man about a month ago from where this is happening. And I really like the way this story is told because it's kind of a back and forth of a now and then. But essentially he goes to prison and he's being recruited out of prison to undergo a treatment to battle the Hulk by Shadow Base. So Absorbing Man, as we kind of see the stages of him getting recruited and going through the treatments and becoming this next level Absorbing Man, I guess, of sorts, to the point where we get to Absorbing Man dropping in to attack the Hulk as he's returning to home. And we find that the Absorbing Man has some sort of he gives radiation burns when he's touched, and he's absorbing Hulk's powers as they're fighting. And Creel drains the powers until there's just nothing left of Hulk, and then Absorbing Man meets essentially the devil, I guess, the one below all, as it says, and then the one below all rises out of a split Absorbing Man. Was kind of the last page of this issue.
Yeah, so Creel gets basically the treatment that he gets is similar to the treatment that Thunderbolt Ross gave himself whenever he became the Red Hulk.
Okay, gotcha.
So it had a different power set. It was, basically heat based. I mean, there were like some of his early scenes before that Red Hulk is actually Thunderbolt Ross. He's like walking through the desert, and where he steps, the sand gets turned to glass.
That's
so
cool.
It kind of So it's kind of like this. He absorbs gamma, but the Hulk can absorb the gamma back. So it's kind of like this back and forth between the two. So really, whereas Absorbed Man can hurt Hulk, he's not really ever getting to the point where he has a real big advantage over the Hulk, other than the initial, he can hurt me. He used to not be able to hurt me.
Yeah.
So now he has to, take it a little bit different. The first comic book I ever read had the Avengers fighting the Absorbing Man. So I have a special place in my heart for the Absorbing Man for that reason.
Does he always carry around the big ball and chain? Is that
because I guess whenever he got his powers, he had the ball and chain. So whenever he absorbs another material, the ball and chain also gets the same material. So like in his first appearance, he absorbed Captain America's shield. So he and the shield he and the ball and chain were made out of an adamantium vibranium combination for a period of time. So it's part of his regular costume or regular accessories, I guess.
He might be my favorite Marvel villain. He's really good. Yeah, I really like him.
So that one, now whatever Creel absorbed, that gamma from the Hulk, we have that scene where the Hulk looks in that little fragment of a mirror, and he no longer sees Bruce or his father's reflection in the mirror,
right?
Which means that Crusher Creel absorbed whatever it was that the Hulk had absorbed out of Langowski.
Yes.
He now has it, which is that Brian Banner personality, which, whenever he gets to the, somewhere else and you have this masked figure, the giant masked figure looking down at Creel, it's like, well, you can't actually see what I look like. But we're going to see who that actually is, I guess, here, in the next episode,
right.
Our next issue. So
I didn't pick up on the reflection thing. That's cool. I see that now.
Yeah. So he pulled that entity out of the Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Issue 10.
Yeah. Issue 10. I want to say one thing before you start issue 10.
Yeah.
We issues 1 through 5, green door, green door, green door, green door. 6, 7, 8, and 9. No mention of the green door. But here in issue 10, the little quote at the beginning, green door? Well, what's that secret you're keeping? So, so we get some more about the green door finally.
Yes. So a powerless Hulk battles the devil, or the one below all, with eyes on them from Shadow Base. So Shadow Base has got agents looking at through a sniper scope, kind of watching everything that's going on, and Gamma Flight is also keeping tabs on the battle as well.
Now the guy watching them, his name is Bushwhacker.
Okay.
He's actually a Daredevil villain.
Oh.
And he has a cybernetic arm that he can transform into various guns.
Oh.
So this is actually his arm that he has turned into a sniper rifle.
Oh, I see that now. Yeah. And then so Hulk rips the spine/skull out of the split absorbing man, which is a cool little gruesome thing. Kind of just tosses that aside. And then Gamma Flight stops by to, Lankowski is wanting to talk to Hulk and figure out what's going on. But in the midst of that conversation, the Bushwhacker takes a shot at Hulk and shoots his eye. And so now Hulk is obviously angry by this and throws the ship, or grabs the ship that Gamma Flight is in. And then who's the short fella in Gamma Flight?
That's Puck.
Puck, that's right. I knew that name. So then Puck takes a shot at Hulk and leaves a big open hole in the middle of him, while the dying/possessed absorbing man opens the green door. Or the green door's opened through the absorbing man. I don't know how much the absorbing man had much to do with it. And it looks as though Gamma Flight and the Hulk are now in hell by the end of it, or at least that's what Hulk says.
Okay.
So is the green door the door to hell?
Well, I think we'll learn more about that as we go on into the the subsequent issues. But as I understand it, it's a place that everybody who is gamma powered is tied to.
I see.
So whenever they quote unquote die, they spend some time here.
Ah.
But
it's basically the Speed Force for Hulk's force.
That's a good analogy.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but it could be more, it could be less, because I'm not, I'm only on like issue like 30 of the series. So, and it's amazing sometimes how quickly I forget what I've read. But one thing, the Bushwhacker keeps saying, somehow Creel is still alive. He's split in half, but he's still alive. And then we get that other, tooth knockout in this issue where the Hulk actually loses a tooth. When he gets the, I don't know if it's the ball and chain that knocks the tooth out or what. But he's got the scene where you see one of his teeth flying out of his mouth. So, but still really, really good.
Yes. There's a page that really stood out to me when after he gets shot and he's taken down the Gamma Flight ship, and the skin is just kind of flabbing all over on the Hulk from where he's lost everything. It just the visual on that was just weird. I hadn't seen something like that. So kudos to the artist on that. I was like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, some of the earlier issues, not so much the later issues of 6 through 10. The art kind of reminded me of John Romita Jr. I mean, it wasn't John Romita Jr., but and I can't
I
remember.
thought the same thing. That first
Okay,
issue,
good.
yes.
Especially that opening couple of pages. It's like if I would have bet money, if I had,
Me
I would
too.
have bet money looking, especially like Bruce Banner on those bottom two panels. I would have said, oh yeah, that's John Romita Jr. That's John Romita Jr. But no, it is. Who is it? I don't even know.
It's Bennett,
No.
right?
No, it's not in the first issue.
Oh,
It's
it was the second issue, maybe.
Joe Bennett.
No, it wasn't Joe. He's been the mainstay.
Oh,
well, maybe it is. I'm trying to find
If it
the
is, he's
credits.
got a different anchor, and it definitely looked like
Yeah,
it's Lee Garbett.
that's
it.
Does that sound
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I guess
That
they
was
put
the
all the
first
credits
issue,
at the
I think.
front. Yeah, that was issue 6. Yeah,
Okay.
issue 6. Yeah, Lee Garbett does issue 6. So Bennett does what? 1, 2, most of 3, 4, 5, 6, or 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10. So
Okay. And then
Yeah.
I wonder, Martin Simmons maybe does 9. It looks like
does
he's
9.
got an
Or he does the
artist
Creel
credit.
pages in 9. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess Bennett does the non-Creel pages in 9.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
did
because
notice
they have
the
a different
difference.
look as you
That
flip
makes
through
sense.
them.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. So, well, I'm still enjoying it. That's for sure. So.
Yeah.
Well, this is my favorite series I'm reading right now. That's saying a lot too, because I read a lot of series, but this is really good.
Well, I need to. I'm still on my reread of Volume 1 of Captain America, so I haven't been reading a lot of other stuff. So I need to get that finished so I can get back to reading some regular stuff. But
Yeah.
oh well, hopefully eventually. So, all right. Well, anything else before we wrap this one up?
I don't think so. We want to grade this one?
Oh yeah. So I can't remember. I wish I remembered what I graded it last time. I think I was near mint last time. So I kind of like the psychological horror a little bit more than the visual grossness horror. So I may be like a very fine near mint 9.0, so like a step back from the first volume for me, but still really good.
I'm at I'd say a 9.0 as well. I'm liking this more and more. This is kind of my first experience with an ongoing Hulk title of actually just reading something that's not just a mini series of something. So I'm still getting my beak wet on Hulk, but I dig that it's a kind of it's a horror story as my first introduction to that. So I'd definitely say 9.0.
Well, like you guys, or like you, Scott, I don't remember what I graded the first trade, but I'm going to go with a 9.4 on this. It's better than the first trade, I think.
Oh, okay.
The horror aspect of it is especially.
I would agree with
and
that.
I like the issue with the Avengers,
Mhm.
and then they moved away from it, but just great storytelling.
Yeah, it's still good, but I just, I don't need gross out horror. I like the creepy stuff a little bit more than the gross out stuff. So
Yeah.
that's just my personal taste. But this
Yeah.
is still really good. All right then. Well, Mike Atchison, where can they find you if somebody wanted to reach out and talk to you?
Well, you take my first name and then you take my last name and you add the number 5, and it's at Mike Atchison 5 on Twitter.
Shaad, what about you?
You can find me at Shaad Schubert on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I think. That's ShaadSchubert.
All right, this is Scott Reed. You can find me at bergcomics.com. And then don't forget that coming up on July 24th, we got the first Muddy Monster Minicon with special guests Jason Fount, Red Ranger from Time Force. So please make plans to be there. The con will run from at least 10 to 4 or maybe 10 to 5. And if people are still coming in at 5 o'clock, we'll probably keep going until, if people are spending money, then they'll stay open. So
Money talks.
That's right. Exactly. So, and if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you jump on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. And we will talk to you soon.
Okay, all right. Well, you guys got anything else before we just jump right in so Mike can go to sleep?
Or eat.
Or eat.
Go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Do you need 2 minutes?
No, I had a bio break. I'm good.
Okay, all right. So we ready to go?
Yeah, sure.